an excuse to keep talking. Right, we are live. Hello, hello, hello. It is day 3 of This Is Better, and I am joined by the fabulous Julie Turney for the next session of day 3 as we go through This Is Burnout. As always, if you are sharing your posts, if you're sharing anything from this video, please use the hashtag This Is Burnout so we can put everything together at the end of this week. I'm really excited to get into this conversation with Julie. Julie, before we go into the details,
yes.
Again, a huge thank you for joining me for this campaign. A huge thank you for booking your slot in to share your story. I know none of us are kind of strangers to talking about this and the impact on us, but thank you so much for doing this again as part of this campaign. Before we get into talking about your experience, just tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Julie Turney, who am I? So I'm a bit of a maverick, and I was born in the UK. I live in Barbados because my mom is from Barbados. My dad was from Jamaica. So the Caribbean is kind of like where I am most of the time, but you will find me at certain spots of the year in the UK as well. I started my career as an HR professional working in corporate HR, but now for the last 6 years, I've spent my time coaching HR professionals, facilitating workshops on burnout, um, helping HR professionals recover from burnout, and also helping them to find direction in specifically their HR careers. So I'm an HR for HR coach now. 3 years, going 4 on my own, doing this and loving it. Outside of that, I'm a mom of 3, wife, daughter, sister, auntie, a bit of everything, and a huge Marvel fan, as most people will know.
Yeah, I was just about to say superhero because I think that was our very first conversation, wasn't it? I think you'd done a video on LinkedIn that was kind of this is who I am, and you'd mentioned Marvel and superheroes, and I was like, I have to speak to this woman, and I think that was one of our very, very first conversations. I did actually have a conversation yesterday as part of this campaign as well with Morgan Gleave.
Yes.
He's a cartoonist. I'd always been fascinated with kind of comics and stuff, and we were also talking Marvel and superheroes there. So we're loving the superhero stuff. We're loving the superhero stuff. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm excited to get into this, and I think as I've been kind of talking this week, and I think particularly with Julie and I both coming from HR, and Michelle that we spoke to on Monday coming from HR, Michelle that we're going to be speaking to at 1 o'clock today from HR, Denise that we're going to be speaking to with HR. Not all of this week has been focused on HR. We've been focusing on lots of different sectors, lots of different roles. The majority of us, though, have left the corporate world, to set up on our own. And maybe that was the destiny for us all along. Who knows? But I think for all of us, we've got all of the similarities within HR, right? I don't think whenever we talk about kind of burnout in HR, there's no point of it where we think, well, that's new.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, that was me. I can resonate with that. So again, if you are an HR professional watching any of today's video, and as I said, today is kind of chocker with HR, you're going to be hearing different stories, but in essence, we're all saying the same thing. So Julie, just start by telling us, like, when did you experience burnout?
So I went through burnout twice.
Because the first time wasn't good enough, right?
No, the first time wasn't good enough at all. And I honestly, now in retrospect of my burnout journey, I kind of recognize that maybe I didn't fully heal from the first bout of burnout and spiraled into the second bout.
Yeah.
But the first time was in 2014, and I was in an HR role for a Fortune 500 gas and oil company, and I just didn't see the signs and burned out. And then the second time was in 2018, which was when I took on my first full head of HR role, and it was coming into that, just feeling like you could do everything, and not pacing yourself, kind of spiraled into that second bout of burnout.
Okay, so 2014, 2018.
Yeah.
And you said 2014, you didn't recognize the signs.
No.
So if you could talk us through the signs, but do you think, but also within that, were they different signs 2014 and 2018, or were they the same thing?
They were very similar.
Okay.
But there were some additional signs that I didn't experience in 2014 that I experienced in 2018.
In 2018, okay, yeah. So can you talk us through kind of what they were?
So the first sign was twitching in my left eye. I had this serious twitch that would not go away in my left eye. And I got it between working hours at the most, but it got very intense as the day progressed. And I started to get like a little numbness in my face on the left side as well. I also started to just feel, I got very paranoid. If you make a mistake in HR, generally you hear the term, you're only as good as the last good thing you did.
Yeah.
The minute you make a mistake, it's a problem. And I had at that time, I went through a situation where I made a mistake that was just really hard for me to live down. And it made me paranoid and second guess everything I was doing in my work. I started to also have trouble sleeping. My insomnia was awful, which meant because I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, if I got 3 hours sleep, I got a lot.
Wow.
And I was just going to work exhausted all the time. I couldn't focus, obviously, because I wasn't getting the proper sleep.
Yeah.
And I thought that the answer to all of my problems was maybe I just needed to go to the gym and, exercise. And I started going to the gym.
And push yourself harder, right? Push myself even harder. Yeah.
Started going to the gym 5 days a week, working out, doing classes. And it wasn't making it any better. In addition to that, then I wasn't losing weight. I was gaining weight. And I just found myself very frustrated all the time. I'd get in these fits. My road rage got horrible. Going to work, coming from work, my road rage was just absolutely terrible. And obviously then it impacted my family because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating properly, I wasn't, communicating well, and I just felt like the walls were closing in on me.
Yeah.
And it was really a difficult time. And then in 2018, an additional sign that I did not really pay attention to was then it started to feel like I was having a stroke.
Right.
But I wasn't having a stroke. And then I started getting anxiety attacks where simple things, driving got harder. Sitting in traffic, I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I'd be sitting in meetings at work and I couldn't focus. So when I was asked to interject with something, I almost felt like I was in a daze. And yeah, it was just really awful. And then there were mornings where I just felt intense pain in my body. And I struggled to get up. And weekends, it was even harder to get up. So I spent a lot of weekends just being in bed, not necessarily sleeping because I had insomnia, but just not having the will to get up and do anything at all.
And thank you for sharing all of those. And again, I think very common. I can absolutely relate to the weekend thing. And it was almost for me, I don't know if it was the same for you, but it was almost for me like, again, I was like, as long as I was pushing and proving, then I was okay, right? As long as I kept the mask on, if I'm coping, I was okay.
Yeah.
But it was almost like weekends, I didn't have to prove to anybody that I was good enough. my family had already seen, like you said, it was, impacting family. I was already snapping at, my sons and my husband at the time, and doing all of that stuff anyway. So it was literally just, but at the weekends, it was almost like I'd been unplugged. And whilst mentally, I still had 10,000 things going on in my head.
Yeah.
It was literally like I'd just been unplugged. Like we kind of see the films of robots and stuff, right? They're functioning until they're not. But come Monday morning again, it was like I'd been plugged back in, and I could go through the motions of the robot mode, right, and prove to everybody that I was functioning and that I was okay and that everything was fine.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very similar. And just as you said, the disconnect on the weekends, and even though you don't have anything to prove to anyone really in your family, you still have to be a mom, right? And you still have to be a wife. And it's hard to do those things when you just don't have the will to do those things, because you've spent so much time putting that added energy to the facade that you're showing at work, that everything is okay when it really isn't, makes it super, super hard.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if you can necessarily relate to this, but I kind of describe it. I think the closer that we get to burnout, it's almost like but burnout literally, like there's no energy. There's no energy left. We're at this kind of zero bank. And yet to keep on going and to keep on pushing, it's like you're taking tomorrow's energy to bring it into today. You're taking Friday's energy to come into today. You're taking Saturday's energy to come into today. So you're always kind of stealing tomorrow's energy to keep on going.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way.
By the time it does get to the weekend, it's almost like somehow subconsciously or whatever, but it's like, well, I can't steal Monday's energy just yet because I need that to get me up, to get me on the train or in the car or into the office or whatever, to get me to work.
Yeah.
But actually today I just need to stop. Is that something that you could relate to?
I can totally relate to that. I like stealing energy from another day to get through your current day or your current moment, or like, I think that's a really great way to describe it, but that definitely makes total sense. Because in order for you to actually push through, you just don't have, you don't have the give, and so you have to pull it from somewhere. So I like that. Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, but we still have that driver. So again, for you, as you were pushing, as you're stealing tomorrow's energy to kind of get through the day. If you can kind of think back to that time, what do you think was the biggest reason that you felt you had to keep on going? Like, why could you not just, before we came live, right? You just said to me, well, I took December off, right? It feels amazing. I've just taken the whole of December off.
All of December.
Why were you not able to at the time, or maybe not even thinking about, do you know what, I need some time out?
Because you have a family, right? You've got kids to send to school. You've got a mortgage to pay. You've got to keep food on the table, and all you've got in at that time is your salary, right? So to think about taking time to do anything about what I was experiencing felt impossible. I remember in my corporate life, I never or very rarely took sick leave. I very rarely got sick. But when I did, like, I get sick once a year. That's a standard for me. I either get sick in December or I get sick in January. But once I've passed through that illness, whatever it is, I can go through the rest of the year unscathed.
Yeah.
Unless I hurt myself physically. And so for me, taking sick leave almost felt wrong. Almost felt like I was doing something that just didn't sit well. Like I felt like in the moment that you take that sick leave, you're showing weakness. You're showing that you don't have it all together. in my mind. That's what I'm thinking, because
Yeah.
I've got so much things to do at work, and I've got so much things to do in life in general, that it just felt to me like sick leave wasn't something that I should have. So it was power through the cold in December or January, power through it, and just up your vitamin C, take your medicine, whatever. But you're not staying home, you're not staying in bed, and that, for me, because you felt like there was other commitments. I've got bills to pay. I've got a mortgage. I need to keep this roof over, my family's head, or I need to, be able to be the compliment that my husband deserves. And so those kind of things just spiral you out of control. It's like, I cannot be down. I cannot be down. So yeah.
And do you think some of that, particularly as you got closer to burnout, because I think we can, like, if you get a cold, right, because, well, I'm not feeling great, right? I've got a cold and I'm not feeling great. But do you think there was part of it, as you were getting closer to burnout, and even with all of those signs that you've mentioned, right? I mean, and some of them quite serious.
Yeah.
You're talking, I'm feeling like I'm having a stroke. You're talking brain fog, not being able to function. You've got twitching in the eye. You've got all of this stuff going on. Did any of that make you think, I'm not well and therefore I need to get help? What was the kind of thing, right? Because your eye twitches, right? Oh, there's something wrong there. And I think, and again, I don't know if you can relate to this one, but it's like when we're not at that point of burnout, it's like, oh, my eye's twitching, I need to get that looked at if it's not right. I need to make an appointment with my optician, or I need to go see my eye doctor, or I need to kind of do whatever. But we're in and around that period of burnout. All of these signs are like, I mean, they're big red flashing signs, right? Feeling like you are having a stroke is not the same as like a bit of a runny nose with a cold, is it?
No.
And yet you still didn't feel, I need to take some time off. And is that because it didn't process, or you just weren't feeling ill enough in order to take time off sick? Or something else?
That's a good question. I mean, okay, I had a grandmother who had 2 strokes. So it did kind of alert me, okay, you should get this checked out. But all I did was check my blood pressure. I didn't go to the doctor. I went to a pharmacist, and I was like, can you just check my blood pressure for me?
That's me getting a check over,
that's
right?
Me getting a check, right? Yeah. It's like,
and
my blood pressure was not high. So I was like, okay, so it's not my blood pressure, because one of the triggers for stroke is an elevated blood pressure, right? So I'm like, okay, so my blood pressure isn't high. So like for maybe about 3 weeks, I went to my pharmacist back to back and just like, could you just check my blood pressure for me? And he checked my blood pressure. Blood pressure was fine. I'd just keep moving. And I'd be like, maybe this is all in my head, maybe.
But it must have been worrying you enough over a period of time for you to be going to see the pharmacist for 3 weeks. There must have been something that was like, Julie, we've got a problem here.
We've got. There was something in my head that was like, okay, this isn't normal. You've been going through this for a while. You probably need to get this checked out. When I finally went to my doctor, was the first time was the eye twitching just was incessant, and it was really bothering me, and it was getting to the point where I was starting to get migraines again.
Right.
I hadn't had a migraine since I was maybe like in my early 20s. I'd gone through a stage of having really bad migraines in my late teens to my early 20s. And then we'd figured out what I needed to do to help that. So it wasn't that, but then the twitching was causing migraines. And the first time I got that migraine is the first time I went to the doctor, because what that migraine did for me was give me the nudge, the push, not nudge, push that I really needed, because I had that migraine for 3 days.
Right.
And at the end of that migraine, I felt extremely weak, almost like I couldn't lift my body. Like I felt I needed to move my body, but I couldn't move my body.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I experienced that, I went straight to the doctor and I said, look, this is the list of stuff that's been happening. Yes, and I know you're gonna be mad at me because I didn't come sooner, because I've been having a lot of these things happening to me progressively over like a year.
So you had that level of awareness to say to the doctor, this is a year's worth of symptoms that have been getting worse and worse and worse over time.
Yeah.
But it had taken a 3-day migraine for you to take any action.
Yeah.
Okay. What does the doctor say to you?
I can't say everything the doctor said to me. You can't say that stuff on LinkedIn.
So it gives you a little tap on the wrist and says, Julie, you're very naughty of you.
A very big tap on the wrist, a very big, conversation around taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And I'd heard so many stories of people, friends, professionals saying that their doctor never recognized burnout. Thank God I didn't have that situation with my doctor. Yeah. My doctor exactly knew what it was, and he was like, Julie, you're burned out. You're not on the verge of burnout. You're not burning out. You are burned out.
Burned out. Yeah.
And he said, you need to take some time. And he said, he says, the first thing, because my mouth was about to open and go, no. And he goes, I know you're going to say that you don't want any sick leave. But I promise you, if you don't take this, you will be back here. And if you're not back here, you'll be in the hospital or at the accident and emergency. You need to take some time. And he gave me 6 weeks off.
Right.
And that traumatized me because I wasn't used to, taking sick leave. Gave me 6 weeks off. And it was very eye-opening for me during that time. The things that I was feeling, thinking, going through. And he recommended very simple things, take a walk.
Yeah.
Go to the beach. Meditate. But whatever you do, quiet your mind. Get some rest. And then he said something very poignant that changed my life forever. He said, I want you to go to therapy.
Okay. And your response to that was?
I'm not mad.
Okay.
I'm not insane. Why are you sending me to therapy? And he said, because the things that you've described, especially not being able to quiet your mind, the insomnia, clearly there's some trauma that you've gone through that you need to talk about. And he just said, tell me like a couple of things that you've experienced over the last couple of years. In terms of work or in your family life, whatever, tell me. I'd lost an employee to suicide. I'd had an employee that had died suddenly during their vacation. I'd had this mistake that was hanging over me. Just things that I'd been in. And he said, how did you process them? And I was like, well, you don't. You move on to the next thing. You do the work and then you move on to the next thing. And he was like, you need to pause because your body is telling you that you needed to pause. Why didn't you listen to your body? And I was like, because I've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Because I've got things to do, And he said, I want you to go to therapy. And I started my therapy journey then, right there and then. It was one of the best things I could have ever done for myself and my family.
Yeah. I can relate to that one.
Definitely was the best thing that I could have done for myself and my family. And I still, down to this day, I go to therapy once a month because you don't realize that there are so many underlying things that are happening in your life. And I take trauma every day because I have clients who are traumatized that I work with every day. And so I'm constantly taking in trauma, and I need to be able to dump that somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, therapy is key to
I absolutely second that. Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
burnout journey.
And I think one thing I want to pick up on, because I do think this is particularly prevalent when we talk about HR. You'd spoken about 2 deaths in your team. So you've got somebody who's died by suicide, you've got somebody that has died whilst on holiday, and then this mistake, which it was a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Logically, we could all look at that now and say, well, we're all allowed to make mistakes. But as we compound them, and again, as we're on that road to burnout, it isn't just a mistake. It is a really, really big thing that is kind of screaming at you, you're a failure. And again, that paranoia of, I can't allow this to happen again, I've got to keep going. But I think one thing that is really prevalent, I think, from all of it was very useful, thank you. But where you said all of those things had happened, but you just had to get on with it.
Yeah.
And I think everybody, and not just HR, there are lots and lots of other professions also. But I think if we talk about it from an HR sense, I know throughout my career, like I had days where I was having to, deal with terminally ill people from across the organization. But that was actually, a conversation with one terminally ill person in the midst of, I've also got a disciplinary this afternoon, I've got a grievance issue, I've got to prep for the interviews tomorrow, I've got to get that board paper done, I've got to do that. And it's not that we don't feel it, because we do feel it.
Yeah.
But we are, in effect, aren't we, told and taught as part of HR not to feel it, because it is just part of the job, right?
It's part of the job. Just keep it moving.
Yeah. And so we do feel it, but we don't really allow ourselves to, because we have got 10,000 other things that we need to deal with today or this week or next week. And at the same time, as we're trying to process all of that, we're getting constant I'm going to say interruptions in some, I was going to say in the best sense of the word. Sometimes they're not in the best sense. They are literally interruptions.
Yeah.
But we're doing that in amidst people walking into the office, people ringing, people emailing, all of that kind of stuff. So there really is no downtime.
No, never is any downtime. And as you said, and I'm sure it's true in other professions, but in HR, you're taught you got to suck it up. Like, you can't let people see that you're afraid. You can't let people see that you're confused. You can't let people see that you don't have it all under control or that you don't know. You have to just, I'm talking about back then. You have to just, push through, muddle through. And you're taught more or less to fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
Because HR professionals are constantly fighting for this elusive seat at the table, almost what seems like elusive seat at the table, to get their ear, to get their words in, for their voice to be heard on behalf of the people. I'm at the stage in my career where I'm just like, if organizations don't get that not having me at the table makes a difference to how we create better people experiences, I don't want to be in that organization.
Yeah.
But then there are people who don't feel like they don't have that ability to make that choice. And you do. The truth is you do. What happens is, in our space, we give our power to everyone. And when we do that, we feel less empowered in ourselves.
Yeah.
HR in itself is already, for the most part, can be a very demoralizing, lonely profession to be in. You may wonder why do you want to be in it? Because if you have that love for seeing people thrive and succeed, you will want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
What you need to do then is just find the organizations that hear it, understand it, and will work with you to achieve it.
Yeah.
The organizations that don't will continue to suffer and will continue to have issues, because not having HR people at the table makes all the difference. So I say all of that to say, yeah, that exactly, that we're taught, or as HR professionals, we have to be the strong ones. We can't show weakness. When we fail, it's a huge thing,
Mm.
and shame on you. You should have never made that mistake. And it's very demoralizing, because when employees aren't shouting at you, screaming at you, ranting at you, leaders in the organization are screaming at you, ranting at you, belittling you, saying that what you do doesn't matter. And all of those things slowly but surely impact how you think and feel about yourself
Yeah.
as a professional, and what you bring to the table. And if you're not dealing with these things, they will start to be signs, help you develop signs of burnout. They will.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, again, there's so much to unpick that. I mean, I was told at the very, very beginning of my career, you just don't show any emotion.
No.
Like, you don't show any emotion, you don't show any feelings, you don't show any fear, you don't do any of this. And again, you know, we talk about, and this was definitely, you know, I started my career in the late 90s. I know I started at 21. But, you know, it was kind of late 90s, and there still was very much this, you know, you leave your home life at the door when you walk in, you leave your work life at the door when you walk into home, all of that kind of divide. But when you're basically told, you know, pretty much, again, you've got to be a robot all day, you don't want to see any emotion, any feeling, you just deal with it, you take it, you deal with it, you take it.
Yeah.
That does take its toll after like 20 years of doing the same thing kind of day in and day out. And even though I have, and I'm, you know, I know it's the same for you, even though I have been able to implement some really, you know, like we scrapped performance appraisals like back in 2008, you know, that was absolutely unheard of at the time. I implemented 4-day working within my consultancy in 2019 when, you know, only a few organizations worldwide were doing that, right? There's this really innovative stuff.
Yeah.
And I get really excited about making those changes and ensuring that people do love going to work and are working in safe and happy workplaces, as I know you do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it is almost like, as HR, we are having the life sucked out of us.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, we're fighting for that table, we're fighting to be heard. And at the same time, we're being told, you know, you're not adding any value to the bottom line. You know, you are just a business expense. You're an admin function. We're going to give you all of the crap that nobody else wants to deal with. And yeah, you can be made to feel day in and day out like you don't matter, like your work doesn't matter, like your function doesn't matter. But actually, when it does all hit the fan, who's the first person that we want to call on? Actually, hi, Julie, can you come and help us with this, please? And you're supposed to be all, you know, 100% switched on and ready to go at that point, aren't you? And I don't think enough of us realise just how big an impact that can have on us over a period of time. And I think the point, again, that you made, that in the right organisation, that does make a big difference. And again, I don't think we appreciate just how much that is. I don't know about you, I'm going to kind of ask you this question, but I did this at one of my talks last year to it was HR audience. And I was always like, if you had two jobs, right, the jobs are exactly the same in terms of job description. But actually, if we look at two different cultures, one of them, or even some of the workload, but one of them, like HR doesn't really need a lot of work, right? The culture's great. All of the managers are fully on board with everything. But we want you to come in and lead our HR function. Versus, we want you to come and lead our HR function, but there's some stuff that needs changing with the culture. Managers aren't fully on board with stuff. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. In the early days of your career, would you have gone for the challenge where you could make the change, or would you have gone for the role where everything seemed to be like really perfect?
In my early HR career, I would have gone for the one where I could make the change. Now, I would have gone for the first one. I would have gone for the one where I had people who were on board.
Yeah.
Because there's something about being able to make an impact, right? I think one of the things you think about in your career, no matter what you're doing, is if you're doing what you love, you want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And you want to leave a good one, right? So that even the next person who comes through the door will know they've got some serious shoes to fill,
Yeah.
right? But I'm over that.
Yeah.
I'm over that now. Like,
me too. But yeah, they were the type of roles that I was going for, because it seems really attractive, right? There's a challenge. You need to change the culture. You've got to do this. You've got to change this. You've got to change this.
Yeah.
And you don't realise that going into those organisations that are sold to you as a challenge that you're able to embrace and do brilliantly, you do not realise, again, the toll that takes. Because if you've got a C-suite team or leaders or managers or people that do not understand your role, that do not value and appreciate the people in the organisation, full stop, you've already got kind of Mount Everest to climb just to show that people are important before you can even start to make any changes. And again, that in itself takes its toll on the HR profession. So when I see Forbes producing, reports and whatever that are saying 98% of HR professionals are burned out, I'm like, well, I totally get that.
Yeah, not surprised at all. And it's so funny. I think it again comes down to how managers market jobs. So when people go, oh yeah, there's some work that needs to be done, something that you could really sink your teeth into. What I teach my clients now when I'm coaching them is that's another word, or the word that they're really trying not to use is, this culture is toxic.
Yeah.
If they had said this culture was toxic, you would have backed off in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
But because they use words like something to sink your teeth into, needs some work here. This is where
challenge, opportunity,
opportunity for you to really make a really great impact and leave a good stamp on your HR career. You're not hearing toxic, but what they are saying is, this place is toxic.
Yeah.
We need help. But they're not going to say it like that, or you're not going to take the job. So what I do now is work to help people recognize what the words that they're using and what they really mean.
Yeah, amazing. And again, the good work of a very good friend of the two of us, Laura Mazzullo, also with the stuff that Laura's, Laura helps HR and talent people also to identify the crap that some people are trying to sell you in jobs.
Yes.
Make the use of Julie, make the use of Laura, and really get underneath what it is that you are being asked as HR professionals to do within the jobs, and also what it is that you are selling in the jobs that you are promoting to other people. So absolutely tap into Julie and Laura with that. That would be an awesome one. So Julie, what do you wish you'd known before you got to the point of burnout?
This is a really good one. I wish I'd known to listen to my body a lot earlier. I wish I'd known my worth. Because then the mind games that I played with myself and that others had tried to take my power away, knowing that I had the power within me to do something about it a lot sooner, I would have. So now my learning from that is, whenever I see something or feel something that doesn't feel right, I go straight to the doctor. To the point now that my husband says, you like to give the doctor money. It's not that I like to give it's not that I like to give the doctor money, but I do annual checkups and I do quarterly check-ins.
Yeah.
The difference, right? Every year I do a set of blood work to make sure that my organs are functioning well.
Yeah.
I have a thyroid issue, which I hadn't picked up and probably wouldn't have picked up if it wasn't for this particular journey. So every year I get my thyroid checked, but then once a quarter I do check-ins. Like I'll do check-ins to just, talk to my doctor, because I think a lot of times we feel that we only go to the doctor when we're sick.
Yeah.
But that's not the only reason we go to our doctor. If you have a really good doctor like mine, who was able to say, you have burnout, or I want you to try, instead of taking all these medications,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to try, like a fruit cleanse, or
Mm-hmm.
eating a green diet, or just
Mm-hmm.
like eating a meatless diet.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to try those things. I want you to take walks. Like, my doctor is absolutely fabulous when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to those things. May he never retire. Um, so I think it's really important to have a good relationship with your doctor. And if I built that up front, I wouldn't have it wouldn't have been so drastic for me. So I value the relationship I have with my doctor and the relationship I have with my therapist, and being able to tap into my body and know when something isn't sitting well. The most I'll ever wait is maybe 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's still going on after 3 days, I go, right, I'm going to the doctor. I
Yeah.
don't work on Fridays, so I have a standing, like, I could walk in.
Daily, yeah.
I could walk in any Friday, and my doctor will see me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's really important to have as well. So yeah, I
Fantastic.
wish
And
it
again,
could
it sounds like your doctor is promoting well-being
well be
rather than fixing problems.
correct. Correct.
Fabulous. We need many more doctors like that,
Yeah,
many, many more.
absolutely.
And then finally, what do you think that people need to know about burnout that we don't widely speak about?
Burnout is no joke. Um, Burnout is not something that you get today and can heal or up from tomorrow.
Mm.
Burnout takes long to kick in and long to kick out.
Yeah.
And if you don't recognize those signs, while doctors have proven that burnout does not kill, but burnout can take you very close to the edge. And if you don't deal with it, one of the worst things that could ever happen is you could have a mental breakdown. Um, a mental illness leads to you having to take medications that, have you ever listened to the ads of antidepressant for an antidepressant, and you listen to what they're saying about the side effects of taking that antidepressant? And one of the side effects that they mention for taking antidepressants is always suicide. So you end up taking these meds that could possibly make you take your life. That's not being empowered at all. And so for me, I think it's really important that people recognize that while burnout may not kill you, it could lead to things that could make you lose your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that was really, really important to talk about. Where you said that with medication, I'm not advocating against medication. I think if you're working with a professional for that, that is fine. But as I've spoken about in my journey, in my experience many times, the medication almost caused me to want to end my life.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve 2015. And again, as we're talking, as we've said, burnout is chronic workplace stress, like chronic stress.
Yeah.
As Julie quite rightly said there, in terms of mental breakdowns, but chronic stress can lead to heart issues, health issues. It can lead to stroke. It can lead to heart attacks, all of that kind of stuff. Like, we need to be taking it seriously. And I don't know about you, Julie, but certainly when I see, kind of burnout being used as the latest buzzword for marketing campaign, and I've seen, and it has got a beautiful ring to it, right? Burnout free in 2023. I've seen the ads, I've seen the marketing for people selling social media services, finance services, marketing services, retail services, even like desk phones. Selling me a desk phone is not going to prevent burnout. And if you are using burnout in your marketing for 2023, I want that stopping now.
Yeah.
A big thing about that. So I think, and having been through it and some of the severities that we have both experienced with it, like, it's not something that I want to just be seeing used as a strap line for somebody trying to promote their latest service to you.
No, definitely not. I think it's horrible that people take burnout and use it in that kind of way, because it's definitely something that is not to be played with. If your body undergoes continuous stress and pressure, it will lead to the things that can kill you. As you know, you rightly said, stroke, heart disease. So find a way to recognize when these things triggers are happening in your body and do something about it right away. Go to your doctor right away. Don't go to your pharmacist and get your blood pressure taken.
For
Go
3 weeks
for
straight.
3 weeks straight.
No.
Go to your doctor and have that conversation, and then make sure that you get the support that you need, whether that's through therapy or through constant doctor's visits or change in diet, change in scenery. If you're not taking sick leave, take that time. Take that time and do wise things with it, like rest, not work, not tell people you can still access me from home. No, you need to take a full cutoff of work and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because you will regret it in the end if you don't do it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Julie, if people want to find more about you and what it is that you do, where's the best place for them to get in contact with you or to track you down?
They can find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. I'm there all pretty much every day.
Every day. Julie Turney on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Give her a like, a follow, share, whatever it is that you want to do. Get hold of Julie. There's always some great content and some big help there for all of the HR profession. So do tap in. Julie, I want to say a huge thank you for joining me. Thank you for booking your slot and being part of this week's campaign. I really, really do appreciate it. Again, if you've loved watching this, listening to this, if you're listening to the audio playback, whatever it is, if you're sharing, commenting or liking, please, 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 with the hashtag This Is Burnout, so we can continue to track all of the great stuff that we are talking about as a result of this week. I will be back with you at 1 p.m. with Michelle Hartley. I will see you then. Julie, thank you again. And I will be back with you all very, very soon. Have an amazing day. Julie, thank you very much. Enjoy being back after your December break.
Yeah.
Take care. Thanks, everybody.